everyone. My name is Allison Francis. I'm an editor at Channel Futures and Channel Partners, and your host for today's It's 501 Somewhere. I have the pleasure of grabbing drinks with Mayka Rosales-Peterson, Channel Marketing Coordinator for Telesystem, which is a national provider of communication, collaboration, security, and infrastructure solutions. Welcome, Mayka, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I am excited. I have my wine right here.
I was just about to ask what you're drinking.
Yeah, I'm drinking just regular red wine. I'm very plain, so this is great for me.
I love red. I'm actually drinking white today. I usually don't, but this is like in between grocery runs. So
I love it.
This cereal bowl of a glass also.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks so much again for being here. Really appreciate that.
No worries.
Diving right in here, there's, kind of this issue that has been more prevalent now, just through all the things that have been happening and, showcased in the media and, all of that sort of thing. And, our job is to educate partners on how to better their business.
Yeah.
Now, this business being, one of the widest, most male-dominated industries, it's true. As a Black woman in this industry, can you kind of tell me what that's like what your experience has been?
Yeah, I definitely had some amazing allies in this space that were white men, like my boss, Bruce Wirt, I'll give him a shout out. That have really helped me in my career. But then again, as a woman of color in this space, it's hard to see yourself in other people that don't look like you sometimes. I know, when I lay the map of my career, there's often not a lot of people who look like me in those spaces. And it's hard, it's hard sometimes. It's like, why? Why? I feel like women of color in general, all women, but particularly women of color, we have so much to offer as well with our different perspectives and different upbringings. And there's so much value that we can add to business. And I feel like we need to do a better job in the channel to just open spaces for diversity. It's so important. Specifically with the businesses that we serve, we should be able to have people in those companies that look like the people they serve. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you give kind of an idea, what that looks like, kind of preparing the industry or, laying the groundwork for that?
Yeah, like an individual organization. So I think the main thing that organizations can be doing right now is giving a seat to the table to people who don't look like them, right? Whether that is having a manager who's a person of color or director or, C-level person, we need to be able to elevate just that diversity within all spaces of the organization. So I'm going to use the example of my boss because I feel like he's been doing an awesome job with that, Bruce Wirt. He's really good at acknowledging that there's an issue and he puts me out into the forefront. Even when I feel uncomfortable, he's like, no, you have to put yourself out there and you need to be putting yourself out there. So I always tell him, I'm like, we need to multiply you times everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like we can make more spaces for everybody. It's, And I love what Channel Partners is doing. Like, I love that you guys have the allyship program specifically dedicated to creating these conversations that need to be happening. And I'm so glad that I'm part of that.
Yes, we are too.
It's so good. There's so many incredible thought leaders in there. And I feel like you guys will really make an impact and a change in this space. So I'm really excited to be part of that journey.
Yeah, well, we are too. And just to give a little bit of background, this allyship is basically, it's a coalition of vendors, distributors, analysts, consultants, partners, and members of our very own team that serve in kind of an advisory capacity.
Yeah.
Just with the idea to bring kind of a diverse set of voices together and address these issues that are that are everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
So we call ourselves the Allies of the Channel Council, and it really is, you know, it's about having these conversations, you know.
Most definitely. I was going to ask you, as a woman and a white woman, how do you feel in these type of climate? Like, what do you think? What are you thinking? Because you never really ask, right? What do other people feel?
Yeah,
That's
no, that's
not
really
people of color.
right. Well, no, that's a really good kind of, you know, switcheroo, because, you know, I think, at least from my perspective, it has been now more than ever trying to seek to understand, you know,
Yeah.
not to dictate or, you know, insert myself in any sort of conversation from any sort of authority. It's, you know, like, how can we have these conversations? How can I educate myself and others? Again, this industry in particular.
Yeah.
You know, that again is predominantly white. So, you know, that's kind of my stance, at least.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard. Specifically, I have two small boys, and I had to have the conversation with them about, you know, just what to do. And they're only 6 years old, like they're so little. But he didn't even understand why the world was the way it was. Like, why is there so much anger towards color? Like, he didn't even understand. He's like, this is stupid. And he was really upset. He's like, I don't understand this. So I don't know. We just have a long way to go. And I think it's just so many issues and so many, it's just like a cobweb of stuff that is. I think police brutality right now is what is at the forefront. But there's so many other things that is in that web that I feel like it's definitely not going to be unraveled in our lifetimes.
Right, totally. Well, and that brings up a good point, is kind of like that systemic, you know, the systemic part of it is just, you know, there are things that people are just now, non-people of color are just now realizing, like, oh, I've been benefiting from this, you know, and, you know, perhaps not realizing it.
Yeah. So your zip code definitely can shift that as well. Something so small like that can dictate what the school you go to and the quality of policing or the neighborhood that you live in with safety. You know, something so small like that, people of color have to deal with. And people of color don't want to live bad. Like, we don't want to live like in poverty or, you know, and things like that. It's just that I feel like because a lot of the things are so systematic, it's hard to get out of that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No. And again, these are the types of things that if you've unknowingly or knowingly, you know, benefited from your entire life, this is kind of where I'm coming from, is kind of this unlearning process.
Yeah.
And, you know, in terms of that, like, a lot of people have really far to go.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of being aware of that and, you know, taking the steps to kind of turn that on its head.
Yeah, most definitely.
Like, you have a long way to go.
Yeah. I shared this story, something that happened to me just recently, maybe a month before the pandemic actually hit. I shared the story on the Alliance of Channel Women. So with a police. So I live in a predominantly white neighborhood, right? I got home from work. I was in my car. And I had my 1-year-old in my car. So we were right in front of my house, about to get in. I open my door, open his door, get him out the car seat, have him on my hip. And I see a police just like parked, like, you know, in the house in front of me. So I'm like, all right, he's probably here for someone else. So I walked into my door, about to open it, and the police officer runs to me. And he's like, is your name Mayka Rosales? And immediately I'm thinking, oh my God, somebody died, somebody got hurt, something happened, like what happened? So he's like, well, I was sitting here and I ran your plates and they are expired and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, sir, I just renewed my plates and I'm walking into my house. Like,
right.
Like,
what cause do you have?
Like, why are you sitting there? You see a Black woman drive into a neighborhood that she does not belong in. That's what I'm thinking. And you're like, hold up, let me run her plates. Let me see what's up. So I go inside, I put my son down, and I'm just like so irate because I'm like, I can't even walk home. I can't even go home.
Right.
So I walk out, and he was called to do a wellness check for my neighbor. So he wasn't even there for me. He was there for my neighbor. So at that moment in time, I'm like, you know what? I have a nice car. I had on professional clothes. I had on my badge. My son was well dressed. but still, you know, that is still not enough, you know, and it's like I wear the biases and the stereotypes that people wear for people of color on my skin. And I can't do anything of that. And that hurts to the core. Like I don't know how else to describe that. I think that foundationally is what all people of color feel like. Like we can't change our color, but we have associated biases and fears and like all these things attached to us that has nothing to do with me.
Absolutely.
So that forever changed me, because I'm like, I can live in a nice neighborhood. I can look like not a criminal and still get bothered. So it's like, what do I have to do?
Right. Well, it's not what you have to do at all.
Right.
You know, that's the problem here.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to imagine, you know, indignation doesn't even seem like the right word, because obviously it runs deeper than that. But oh my God, yeah.
But I can't even imagine what other people of color face. If this is what I go through in a white neighborhood, I can't even imagine what happens in a Black neighborhood. So.
Absolutely. And I kind of want to turn that, you know, that sort of sentiment back to, you know, how do we educate, and we sort of touched on this already, but, you know, how do we educate our channel partners, you know, to better their business in this regard? Again, I know we kind of touched on it already, but I'd like to go a little deeper. I
think telling our stories, because I think that if partners see me and they're like, oh, I know Mayka. She went through that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It happened to somebody I know? Like, no, I thought it was just the media saying this. I'm like, no, it really happened. To me. So it's like, it's not a lie. It's not a media conspiracy. It happens to us all of the time. And I think if people of color in this space tell our stories, like little stories, you know, things that happen to them more often to our partners in these forums like this, is going to open up people's eyes, because they're going to be like, I cannot believe Mayka went through this. What?
Right.
I love her. Like, how? But yes, it happens.
Yeah. Even
it's not a lie.
I don't mean to say small instances, but, you know, because it's certainly not, but, you know, in small cases like that, like, you know, it could have been much worse, you know.
So these conversations, we need to, like, people of color need to tell their stories, not only Black people, because Latinos, I'm Afro-Latina, my parents are Panamanian. Okay. So Latinos go through this all the time as well in their communities. It's a problem for people of color all around
the board. Absolutely.
Across the board.
Yep.
We got to think, like, people of color are the minority in this country, right? So we're going to face this no matter where we go in a country that the majority doesn't look like us. So we have to keep fighting these struggles. And it's going to take everybody to help this just get better. You know, it's going to take everybody. So love conversations like these. Other people will get educated and see how they can help. And if they want to help in the channel, join the group, the allyship program with the channel partners, because we are doing something incredible in this space. I know they could reach out either to you or me. I
was going to say, I will provide, you know, the information that people, they can reach out to me directly. You know, this is something that's ongoing. This is conversations like this, you know, it is editorial comment. It is event programming, you know, just general community discussion and kind of other initiatives aimed at this kind of thing. I would love to include as many people in this as possible. We need to get all the voices we can.
Oh, most definitely. We do. We need to do more of these. So thank you so much for having these type of conversations. I really thank you for the space. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing your story and your experiences. Like you said, getting those out there is so important.
Oh, for sure. Most definitely. And I pray and hope that the channel does get more diverse. I'm hopeful that it will, now that these conversations are happening. So we will see. I will keep pushing.
Same.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Mayka, for taking the time to do this today.
No worries at all. Thank you.
And for anyone who wants to join the Allies of the Channel Council, we will get you as involved as you'd like to be. So thank you. This has been It's 501 Somewhere. Mayka, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.